Rhodesia, the Zambezi Valley. Unspoilt, untouched, untamed. No one lives here, no one may hunt here. The balance of nature is undisturbed. The only visitors are the men who see that it remains undisturbed, the patrolling game rangers. Now that's a job that's a way of living, not of earning a living. You're isolated, but you're free. You have to be fit because you depend on no one else but yourself. Most of all, you live in a self-contained world. Summits and Sputniks, wars and rumors of wars, who cares? What's here and now is the basic business of living. Your life and the animal's life all joined together. Animals like old Crookleg. When the ranger, they still keep an eye on him, but he's managed wonderfully. And as long as that other bow leg stands up to the strain, and he's neither in danger himself, nor getting bad-tempered enough to be a danger to others, he's welcome to carry on in his own time. The rangers have learnt to read the signs of the bush and to keep their eyes open for anything out of the ordinary. Vultures gathering. That may mean anything or nothing, but the ranger will always go and have a look. Sometimes it does mean something. Poachers and poaching are the bane of the game ranger's life. The rangers are straightforward people, and they've learnt to accept the killings that are a daily part of life in the bush. But for poachers, they've got a real and personal hatred. It's not so much that they resent trespassers from the outside world, although that does come into it. It's mainly the clumsy, cruel methods they use. So often their snares, the antiquated guns that they can't use properly, maim and wound instead of killing cleanly. They leave behind them a trail of animals too badly crippled to survive, or so tormented with pain that they turn into savage killers. So the rangers, whose life is tied up with that of the valley, look on battle won against the poachers as almost a personal victory. But another intruder has moved into the valley, one against which the rangers cannot fight. Development. Downstream, the famous Kariba Dam, almost complete, is already holding back the Zambezi. One day, the rangers will patrol the shores of a lake 200 miles long. But meanwhile, the waters are invading the plain and breaking it up into islands. They rise further, and those islands shrink and vanish as new ones are isolated from the mainland. The instinct that teaches wild animals to range only one small area betrays them now, and they find themselves trapped. As the islands are eaten away, they get steadily weaker from lack of grazing and will eventually drown in their hundreds unless something is done. Here is a challenge to the rangers. It is their valley that is threatened, their animals. To do nothing to help would be unthinkable. They set about the job of saving hundreds of helpless creatures, the job that was nicknamed Operation Noah. Their base camp on the edge of the new lake within sight of the great dam wall presents a striking contrast to the air-conditioned hotel a couple of miles away. But living here is luxurious compared with the fieldwork on Operation Noah. And it's fieldwork most of the time now. They call at the base camp for just long enough to refit, stock up, and plan the next moves. Then they're off again, no longer on foot patrol, but crowded into the launch that acts as mothership to the two little outboard runabouts from which they do the real work. They intend, quite simply, to transfer every animal from every island to the safety of the lake shore before it is too late. Today, they're going to start by tackling one of the bigger islands, which they hope to clear completely by netting the animals. The first step is to land an advance party to get things organized. Nets is a job. So while that's going on, the rangers are going to make a sweep of the smaller islands nearby. All this was dry land a few days ago, and every island has its bewildered occupant. Bewildered and terrified, first by the flood, and now by the approach of man. How are the animals to know that the rangers have come to save them? Their instinct is only to escape, and the rescue work is simply a hunt without weapons, a primitive hand-to-hand grappling. And you have to know the right way of grappling with a terrified animal. Baboons bite. The waters flush out all sorts of creatures that even the rangers don't often see. A white-tailed mongoose, for instance, viciously looking for a chance to use its needle-sharp teeth. Nocturnal animals, too. The ant bear, blundering and confused in the strange world of daylight. The floods have no discrimination, and they menace every living creature. And the rangers seek the creatures out and save them, wherever and whatever they are. Breathing space now, all too short as the loaded craft cuts across to the main shoreline with its oddly assorted cargo. now they set them free. The draggled baboons, terrified buck, bewildered anteater. Who knows what their feelings are about it all? For them, at least, it's over. For the Rangers, well, they can see no end to the rescue work. There are countless islands and new ones forming every day. And on every one, some living thing waiting to be saved. But the Rangers don't do much looking ahead. On this kind of work, you can only live from day to day. And right now, it's time to get back to the big island where the nets are waiting. It's a simple enough plan. The nets are strung right across the island, and the men divided into beaters and catchers. When everything's ready, the beaters are sent out to drive the animals into the nets. Most of the Rangers stay with the rest, stationing themselves along the inner side of the net. Their job is to stay under cover until the animals are driven into the net and then secure them. As simple as that. Quietly now, they settle down to wait, while on the far end of the island the beat starts. Already restless, the animals listen, nervous and alert. Then they're on the move, normally at first, but more urgently as their fear grips them, and finally in panic. The men at the net wait tensely as the sounds of the beat come nearer. The shouting and crackling of undergrowth, and then the stampeding animals, louder and louder, till suddenly they burst out in front of them and absolute pandemonium is let loose. Some get away on the first beat, but there's no time to worry about that. The Rangers and their helpers, bare-handed in a flurry of whipping horns and slashing tusks, are struggling to subdue scores of fear-maddened beasts. The magnificent sable antelope weighs 500 pounds or more and has been known to kill a lion. Free and unfettered, he could toss the Rangers over his back like toys. He'd do it too if he could fight his way free from the web of the net. But the Rangers, to save his life, are willing to risk their own. That's what Operation Noah really means. That's what the Rangers have taken on. A nightmare of rounding up insanely terrified wild things, wearing them down into submission, tying them up, and then in complete contrast, handling them with loving care, straining not to harm them further as they carry them to the collecting point. A strange conception indeed, to risk your life to pull down a sable, to struggle with its back-breaking weight so that you can carry it across the water and set it free again on the far side. Such a mass capture of live animals happens once in a ranger's lifetime and gives a marvelous opportunity for learning more about their ways. The rangers earmark some of every species and will be able to observe their movements in the calmer days to come. The collecting point looks rather like an emergency first aid post, especially when the rangers bring out the hypodermics. Even tied and blindfolded, the beasts often struggle madly, spattering their rescuers with saliva. A boatload of these can be very difficult to handle, and some may even die of fright. So the rangers often inject them with tranquilizers. So it is only when they have been hunted down, exhausted, tied, and often drugged, that the animals can at last be carried to safety. Once again, the merciful break from tension and exhausting labor, as the rangers steer their boats across this never-never land of drowned bush. A few minutes of relaxation for aching bodies. But Operation Noah never really lets up on you. Even in the water you'll find animals. Waterbuck particularly have a habit of making their own way to safety. But it's a long swim, particularly for the males who circle like a destroyer escort until all the females have reached dry land. The rangers know that many males exhaust their strength doing this and drown. So they must break off from what they're doing to escort the whole herd, ready to help if necessary. Sure enough, some of the waterbuck begin to flag. There's only one way to save them, and the rangers, relying on their wariness, go right in amongst them and lead them safely to the shore. They keep up the patrol, watching over the safety of the herd till the last waterbuck reaches dry land. That's typical of Operation Noah. There's no let-up, and one errand of mercy is many a time broken off for another, more urgent. But sooner or later, every load of rescued animals reaches the mainland. They've been at it non-stop for quite a time now. Skins softened by water and torn by thorns. Bruised and aching bodies have begun to make themselves felt. The whole routine of pulling in and disembarking and carrying the animals ashore becomes more and more of an effort as the day goes on. But this is the object of the whole operation. With each boatload released, the rangers take another step towards doing what they set out to do, and they won't give up easily. can't take it easy even when you're releasing the animals. Some of them, the smaller buck particularly, take to the bush again thankfully without giving any trouble. But others, and the warthog is one of the real villains here, remain extremely bad-tempered and have to be watched with the greatest respect. And so, boatload by boatload, the stranded animals, rescued against their will, are transferred to safety. Nothing is overlooked. The work goes on. The rangers move away through the islands, and at once they're in the thick of it again. More swimmers. Sable antelope this time, and the youngest already exhausted. But not too exhausted to fight blindly against the rescuing hands, and quite big enough to knock a man overboard or a camera. Grimly, the herd swims on, and watchfully the rangers follow behind. Half-grown sable begin to flounder now, and one by one, the rangers haul them on board, each bigger and heavier than the last. Only some of the adults have the strength and determination to reach safety unaided. All the rest would perish miserably without help. The bigger sable are too strong and heavy to be carried, but the rangers know that they will manage to wade ashore quite easily if they are tipped out into the shadows. The smaller ones might still panic and drown, so they have to be carried to dry land. Their vitality is astonishing. Half-drowned and manhandled, even the young sable need only a few seconds to answer the instinct that calls to them to fight when they're threatened. Only the babies give no trouble at all, scampering quietly off to find their mothers. There's one more big job for today. You don't often see the rangers carrying rifles on rescue work, but Greta Garbo lives here. A typical piece of ranger humor, that. The desire of a rhinoceros to be left alone is backed up by a most cantankerous disposition housed in a 2-ton body. It could swim ashore easily, but won't. The rangers know that if it stays on the island, it will get too weak to make the attempt, and they want to frighten it into taking the plunge. Make no mistake, this is a thoroughly dangerous business. Deliberately tormenting a rhino, even a young one, is something that no sane man would normally dream of doing. But the ranger's object is to save life, and to achieve it, they quite deliberately stake their own. They have the boat for sanctuary, but there's no guarantee of safety anywhere. Rangers have one more card to play. A light plane to buzz the island. One last concerted effort to scare the rhino off to safety. It's no good. Obstinacy wins the day, and the Rangers for once give up. They leave him victorious to celebrate with one last charge, a victory that will cost him his life. The Rangers call it a day. And every night till they return to their base, they'll sleep by the water's edge, ready for the morning. It's typical of the men that even here, when you'd think that they'd be glad to forget about animals for a while, the place is full of waifs and strays. Young things that were too helpless to leave, a few that have endeared themselves as pets, they're all there, sharing the life of the camp. The Rangers have a weakness for rare creatures, too. Not many people have ever handled a mother pangolin with her baby. And so, to the peace of the evening, with the mosquito nets ranged spectrally among the trees in the flickering firelight. Under their bucksail shelter, the Rangers relax. No luxuries here, but after a day of Operation Noah, it's like the Ritz Hotel. The Rangers have played the part of men, have met fully the demands of the life they've chosen. Now there is complete contentment in the extra mug of tea, the first pipe or cigarette, and the easing of the long tensions of a day like this. One single day in an operation that will take years to complete.